This is the first page of the 4.1D lesson where we're going to look at how do we find slope between 2 points without needing the graph, but we are going to start by looking at the graph. As I go through this, feel free to pause the video, rewind it, or maybe pause it because I'm going too fast, or pause it because you want to try part of a problem. So the first problem, we're going to plot the point 4, 3 and the point 0, 1. And we're going to analyze the slope of this line. So the first thing I notice is that this slope is positive, that it goes up as I look at it from left to right. So as I answer these questions, I'm going to make sure that I also get a positive slope. So the first thing it asks me is, what is the rise between these points? So I'm going to mark up my graph, and the rise is 2 units. The next thing that's asked is, how can I use the y values? So those would be these values right here, y values. How could I use those to build sort of like a little equation to get 2 without needing to count boxes? So what could I do with 1 and 3 to get 2? Could I add, subtract, multiply, or divide them? And in this case, subtracting them gets me 2. So we're going to test this theory. Does this also work for x? So we're going to go to our graph, and now we're going to count the run, which is 4. And we're going to see, could we subtract the x values and get 4 without counting boxes? So 4 minus 0 is in fact 4. So it does work in this case. It's also just coincidental that if we add or subtract 0, we're going to get the same thing. All right, so we see that our slope, or rise over run, either from the graph or from these 2 spots, or several spots, that the rise was 2, and the rise was 2, and the run was 4, and the run was 4. And we're going to simplify down to 1/2. We're going to look at another example, and we're going to see, does this strategy hold up, that we could subtract x values and y values and find the slope without the graph? Again, feel free to pause the video if you're still looking at number 1. We need to test this theory on some trickier values. So this one, we're going to plot the point 1, 4, and we're going to plot the point -2, 6. So the reason that this one is trickier is we have a point in the second quadrant that has a negative. Speaking of a negative, I also notice that this slope is negative. It's going down. And so as I count out my slope for this one, I want to make sure that I include a negative in the right spot. Okay, so the rise between these points on my graph is down 2, which is -2. Now I want to build a little equation from my y values that is going to equal -2. And since the first problem dealt with subtraction, we're going to see, can we subtract these and get -2? And we can if we subtract them in this exact order. 4 minus 6 is the same as 4 plus -6, which is -2. So order is going to definitely matter as we move through this lesson. Next, we're going to count the run, which is 3. And how can we get 3 from the x values? And it's positive. Well, something happened when we learned integers, which is that if we do 1 minus -2, and we take away a negative, that's the same as adding a positive, which is 3. So we're going to be dealing with integer rules, leave, change, like this. And then you can use a calculator as you simplify. like 1 plus 2 or 4 plus negative 6. All right, so the slope for this line is negative 2/3. We rose down 2 and right 3, or we also write it this way. Either way works. These are the same. So that's the first page of the 4.1d lesson.